West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Machel and Santokie, and with me as ever is my partner in crime, Santokie Nagilendran. Santokie, how you doing?
Yes, Mash, all good. And, here at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, we said 2025 is the year of content. We're going to switch things up, we're going to do different episodes, keep everyone guessing, none of this predictability with us, yeah? So today we kind of, it's based off a few questions and comments from new subscribers in particular. Essentially, Mash, we've been getting a lot of messages from people saying, why on earth are two men with British accents talking about West Indies cricket, and what is the Caribbean Cricket Podcast? So in response to that, we've been messaging them and saying we changed the game. And this video is basically talking about Caribbean Cricket Podcast, what we do. And without sounding too big-headed, Mash, the legacy or the impact it's had on sort of how West Indies cricket is portrayed in the media. So how do you want to do this, Mash? Should we just start off and sort of introduce for new listeners in particular, obviously we've got regulars who will know the story inside out. How did Caribbean Cricket Podcast start? What led to it? What were because there was a specific set of circumstances which led to us creating this podcast / venture.
So for those of you who aren't day one listeners to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, it's important to put this in perspective that when Santokie and I launched this venture back in, I think it was August 2019, pre-COVID, pre-pandemic, we had come across each other in the online sphere. Neither one of us knew each other. We were just two West Indies tragics living in London who weren't aware of either's existence, just speaking out into the virtual cloud about the woes of West Indies cricket. And somehow, some way, we ended up in a similar Twitter chain or similar mutuals or something to that regard, where both of us were commenting on the exact same thing with regards to something around West Indies cricket. And that, as you did back in those days, 5 years ago, 6 years ago on the internet, if you picked up there was a mutual on the internet that shared similar thought processes, you just got chatting to them and you added them and you started talking from there. Now, it's important to paint the context. One of the reasons why Santokie and I were talking into the virtual cloud in 2019, 2018 is because from our experience as West Indian cricket fans and diehards who live within the Caribbean diaspora, we didn't feel that there was any medium covering West Indies cricket properly anywhere. There was the odd forum online, which was largely unruly uncles shouting at each other, but there was no medium or outlet since Tony Cozier, I would say, that was effectively covering West Indies cricket in detail. And we'd always felt that the only way you could find out anything about West Indies cricket was each island might cover their insular, they might be insular about their own players. So Guyana might cover the Guyanese, Jamaica might cover the Jamaicans, etc. But there wasn't any outlet that brought it all together. ESPN was slowly becoming the entity it is now, where it's basically India-centric, and we're forcing out any kind of real West Indies focus or West Indies writer of any sort. So Santokie and I got together and said, if no one's gonna be that, let's create it. Let's create a media outlet that actually talks about West Indies cricket and covers the sport in the way that people want the sport to be covered. And yes, in the early days, if you go back and listen to episode 1 and 2, it sounds like Santokie and I recording underwater in a submarine. But those are the early days. Since then, obviously, CCP has taken on somewhat a life of its own, Santokie.
Yeah, and obviously for additional context, if you don't realize already by his life-size Jamaica flag behind, Machel's obviously Jamaica, born in Jamaica, went to school briefly in Jamaica. I'm Guyanese, so we'd obviously had the shared West Indian sort of culture. But I would say, Mash, in terms of the context, especially 2019, for me, a real talking point was we played in the 2019 World Cup. We crashed out. I think we won 2 games and lost 7 or 8. And nobody cared. In terms of the media, it was a whimper. The great West Indies sides that won the first 2 World Cups in England, they crashed out of the World Cup. Nobody really cared. And it seemed like we discussed this at the time. The only time people really talked, since Tony Cozier passed, the only time people really talked about West Indies cricket or examined it was when they came to England. And then it was, can West Indies replicate this golden generation? Jay Headingley want to be the new Viv Richards. And there was no nuance or sort of depth to the analysis going on. It was just sort of very one-dimensional. If West Indies are playing a Bangladesh or Pakistan or India, or not India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, South Africa even, no one really cared. You might see one article from it across the whole tour. There was not really any spotlight on the players, what was going on, the context. And I think me and you, obviously, as part of the diaspora, we had to search far and wide across different newspapers, media sources, and we were just sort of struggling to try and put everything together. So we thought, hold on, we can put a platform together. It's not our jobs. We have day jobs. We have separate working lives outside of this. But for the love of the game, let's create a podcast that can try and at least give some transparency to people in our position and just kind of unite the region and talk about West Indies cricket in a way, crucially, Mash, that wasn't being done before, because there was no podcast about West Indies cricket, nothing about Caribbean cricket. We would have me and you would have been happy to sit back and listen to any podcast if they were available, because we had busy lives at the time.
Hold on a minute. You're right, Let's be bossy for a second. We were the first ever podcast of West Indies cricket. Literally the first. I didn't even, until you just said that, it never occurred to me that we were the first. There was no podcast, because if there was a podcast, we wouldn't have created one.
Man said we were Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin out here. The first to do it. No, so we took matters into our own hands, and essentially, Mash, again, you know what? This is going to sound bossy, but we've done a lot with this podcast. Essentially, I would argue, since we started the podcast, West Indies cricket, the media coverage is massively improved. And that's obviously not solely down to what this podcast has done, but I think the fact that
No, it is down to us. No, it is down to us. I had never seen West Indies media content get to the level it is now until Caribbean Cricket Podcast came on the scene. Nobody was interviewing players the way we were interviewing players. No one was doing that. People watching this, because everyone doesn't know, they hate when I get bossy like this. But go back and watch the archives. No one was doing our style of interviews before. No one weren't interviewing Jermaine.
You know what? Yeah, no hold. But I was trying to give a PR answer there. But I'm gonna agree. Now you said it, because I'm thinking back, 2020 when we interviewed Josh De Silva during the pandemic tour. Nobody was busting joke with the players. Nobody was finding out who the person was behind the player. Nobody was looking at the wider context, looking at how they rose through the region, how all this kind of thing. And in terms of being a visual and audio platform, no one else was doing it. Whereas to the point now, Mash, when we started the podcast, I remember summer 2019, I think India toured West Indies for Test Series. Social media, YouTube, whatever, there was hardly any coverage about the West Indies side. It was literally West Indies lost. Like, this was it. And I think maybe something, this guy made his debut. I'd say now, in a large part to what this podcast does, the consistency we've had over 5 years, and the fact that we make it an event, whether it be a team selection, a performance in a match, it becomes a big event because the CCP community all unites and watches it. It's forced, Mash, Cricket West Indies and other media houses to up their game, basically, I would say. To the point now where you're looking at Darren Sammy about to announce his test squad. People are hyped for it. Everyone's hyped for it because selections now, we basically condition people to believe and feel the fact that squad announcements are a big thing, like they should be. Before us, they weren't a big thing. It was just done. There was a quick press release. Nobody really cared. Now, you get press conferences announcing it. It's big. It's hyped up. Everyone's asking what's happening with this squad. When a squad's announced, people are atting us. CCP need to do a video ASAP. What's going to happen here? So I would say, Mash, this podcast has had, you can't even quantify the effect it's had on how West Indies cricket has been portrayed. And obviously people are going to be in the comments and be like, well, you two are bossy and confident. But
no, it's true. It's true. No one can tell me different. You know, when we have a tour now and like they do those sit down interviews where Nikhil interviews like the latest player in the squad, and they kind of do your journey so far. That only happens because CCP was already doing that stuff. No, it's true. It's true. I genuinely believe, I dare anyone in Cricket West Indies media to come and say to my face that they weren't inspired by what we did. Look back at our interview with Kyron Pollard. Pollard will say himself he had never done an interview like that before in his career, where he properly told it all and said, boy, this is how my career went down, and certain man tried blackball me and XYZ and so on and so forth. When we did our pandemic interview with Ramnaresh Sarwan, no one had ever spoken to Sarwan in depth about his career ever before. And that was back, and that interview was way back in the early days, back in 2020 pandemic days, right? So I genuinely believe we set a template for what we want, for what the region wants to know about players. Not just you're in the squad now, you must feel happy. No, break it down. Break down the career. Tell us how they got there. Tell us what they're trying to focus on. And also, Santokie, let me tell you something. I'm carrying on the bossiness. Before we came on the scene, you tell me, before we came on the scene, I don't care who wants to cuss in the comments. Before we came on the scene, Santokie, who was interviewing the academy head coach?
Yeah, exactly.
Who was interviewing the coach education manager? Who was sitting down with the director of cricket? Who was sitting down with the women's head coach? Who was sitting down with the West Indies head coach? Who was sitting down with an analyst? No one weren't doing them things. We have normalized how in depth you're supposed to go in sports media and sports conversation. The West Indies team is a global phenomenon in the world of cricket in a way that no other cricket team is. India's got the massive population, but West Indies is a global phenomenon, right? In the same way how New Zealand rugby is, right? Or the Brazil football team is. We normalized going in depth into the cricket and the history. Tell me which other entity in Caribbean sports media has ever done a deep dive on Guyana cricket history? Or Trinidad cricket history. Tell me another entity. Tell me another cricket media house that has ever invited authors on when Venetia came on to talk about her Frank Worrell. Tell me who's doing them things. We changed the game out here.
If you look at our back catalogue of Caribbean Cricket Podcast episodes, I know a lot of people might see 1 or 2 episodes and think, oh, these men are jokers. Like you said, we've had the director of West Indies Academy. We've had the women's head coach, whether it be Courtney Wall, Shane Dites. We've had Phil Simmons on. We've had Andre Coley on. We've had Kishore Shallow on. We've had Ricky Skerritt on, the former president of Cricket West Indies. We have Miles Bascom, director of cricket. CEO, Johnny Graves. CEO, Chris Derham. Shimron Hetmeyer, Kyron Pollard. Michael Atherton's come on as well.
Michael Atherton's come on, cuz.
Michael Atherton's come on.
I forgot about that one.
Fazir Mohammed's been on the show. Like, literally, if you're looking at West Indies, Hayley Matthews come on the show. Listen, if you're looking at West Indies cricket and Caribbean Cricket Podcast, there's not one gap we've left in West Indies cricket. If you watch all our episodes, even over the last 2 years, and you put it all together, we've jotted up every single piece of West Indies cricket, from youth level to women's cricket to senior level to retired players to the administration. We've interviewed everyone that's important and linked it. We basically united West Indies cricket stakeholders all in sort of one line. And no one else has done that, Mash. Like you said before, it'd be very easy to go, Dwayne Barvo, Chris Gale, let's do a quick interview. Let's talk about music. And then that's it, move off. We've basically given people a platform to talk about West Indies cricket in depth and give it some sort of relevance and importance again in the modern cricketing media landscape. And I don't think anyone else has done that. They say, imitation is the best form of flattery. I think in the last year or so, Mash, people have noticed tons of shows basically trying to do the same format, talk about Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Obviously, no one else does it like the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. But it points to the fact, Mash, if you're looking at West Indies cricket now, you're looking at basically pre-CCP and then post-CCP, because pre-CCP, there was no one doing podcasts, no one focused on West Indies cricket. Suddenly, as if by a miracle, you've got at least 10, 15 formats all doing the same show. And whether it's coincidence or not, Mash, they seem to be following the same sort of topics that we're talking about.
Bam. On the weekend, when we did that show, not the weekend, whenever it was, when we did that show on the 6 captains, right? I think we were the first show. We even did it before Sportsmax jumped on the hype, right? We were the first outlet to actually just openly do a deep dive on this 6 captains thing. Obviously, Andrew Mason broke it, but we were the first to do a proper deep dive on it. Imagine my shock, Santokie, when over the next 48 to 72 hours, everyone did a show on the exact same topic. And I'm like, so wait. I'm not saying that we hold the levers of power as to what people can and can't do.
But have some originality, man.
But I've noticed a pattern where we do a show and then Bear Man start doing the same show. It's like Bear Man start doing the same topic and the same show.
Even worse when we get sent clips of. Man will be mentioning us on their podcast, fam, as if it's gonna get a reaction out here, which is basically, when everyone tries to come for the top dog, like it doesn't make any sense, man. So, yeah, like I said, imitation is the best form of flattery, and obviously, everyone keep doing what you're doing. If you want, like, obviously, you're doing your own thing, you're doing your podcast and talking about it.
Do your things. And do you know what I will say though? Yeah. Do you know what I will say though, Santokie? I have nothing against people launching their own platform and whatever success they make of it, and whoever wants to say that they're the number one, everyone do whatever you want to do, right? But what I do know is we stay in our lane. One thing I can always say about us is we have never tried to copy anybody else's stuff.
Yeah.
We've always done it in our own unmistakable style. An uncle messaged me today and said, you and Santokie are always laughing and joking about West Indies cricket in your show. And I thought to myself, you know what? Yeah, we probably do in about anywhere between 30% to 50% of our shows, but that's our style. No one else can't do it like that.
Also, Mash, also, I was going to say, all right, cool. You might watch an episode where we're reacting to something and we're laughing. Go back and watch the episode where we're looking at the 1954 tour, England tour of West Indies cricket. There ain't no laughing there. That's a serious episode. So no one else is, I think, whilst a lot of shows and stuff might have one style, with CCP, you can never predict what's going to happen. We might be busting a joke one time, drinking a shot of a nephew. Next time, we're talking about, a Frank Worrell tour, a Frank Worrell book, for instance. And it's all serious deep dive. So I think that's the thing with CCP, Mash. And obviously, as always, what we say in the episodes, if you'd like to see CCP keep running, support the movement, Mash. Where can people support us? As you said, we've run this up from the ground up. Obviously, recently we've got sponsorship in the last month. However, like we're still mainly self-funded. Big trips coming up, so obviously any support can help us. Where can people support us, Mash?
Yeah, for sure. So if you'd like to support the movement, people, because from day, I can't stress enough, this has never been a earner for us. Like, I think every time we say it, I think people just assume we're lying. From day one till now, Santokie and I have never taken any significant amount of money out of Caribbean Cricket Podcast. We've earned opportunities on other platforms. So like Santokie's written for ESPN and BBC commentary and Talk Sport. Like there's been other opportunities that have come about off the back of the existence of CCP, but this entity in and of itself has never been any big money maker. So when we say to people, listen, you can support us at Patreon, that money we use to just pay for other stuff. So for people are like, what do you use the money for? We use it to pay for the guy, big up Hader, who does like our reels and our shorts. We use it to pay people who write articles for the Substack. We use it
StreamYard that we record this on.
We use it to pay the fee for StreamYard every month. So we don't actually take the Patreon money. We just use the Patreon money to make sure that Caribbean Cricket Podcast can exist as an entity. A man messaged me the other day and said, Mash, when are you and Santokie gonna fix the backgrounds of your video? And I'm thinking, with what money? With what money? What are you talking about? I told him to run the money. Like, if you want us to do that, run the money.
I'm recording this in a storage cupboard out here, fam. Man ain't got no ventilation out here. Man, I can barely pay the heating bills out, the light bills out here.
So if people want us to do stuff like that and improve the visuals of the show, you can help us out by supporting us at the Patreon, www.patreon.com patreon.com/Carib Cricket. Somebody did message me the other day and said, Mash, how do we support you if we don't want to use Patreon? So on YouTube, there's also the super chat function. The super thanks, super chat function, which you can see on YouTube as well. Or if you're somebody who has like things like PayPal, there's that option as well. You just have to get in touch with us. I mean, we're 5 years deep now into CCP. It feels like, it hasn't felt like it's 5 years, and 5 years sounds like a long time, but truly we've only really just got started with this entity. You think we've been bossy during the course of this episode?
Hold on as well, Mash. We there. Even the big Wisdom Almanac mentioned us as well this year.
Yeah.
Oh my
days, the 160-year-old Wisdom Almanac in this year's edition. Basically, if you haven't seen it, we've tweeted about it and whatever. But they basically said in this year's Wisdom that CCP covers, the line they used was something like CCP covers West Indies cricket in a way that no other sports media entity can match. And it's facts. It's facts. Let me tell you, you want the ultimate bossy comment, Santokie?
Yeah,
you want the ultimate bossy content? This is the bossiest content I can come with now. Check this out. Everybody who plays cricket or has any kind of vested influence in cricket in the Caribbean watches the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Of course.
They may not admit it publicly, but they all watch it. Before a series happens, everybody's watching our series preview. As a series is going on, everybody's watching the show, from the commentators on TV to the people in the team, to the backroom staff, to the stakeholders. Check this out, Santokie. Here's the bossiest comment of all. This is what will really get people upset. We're better than Sportsmax.
Yeah,
We're better than Sportsmax. We're better than Sportsmax. Caribbean Cricket Podcast is basically a radio show without the sponsorship. That's basically what we are. We are a syndicated radio show without actually being on radio. And as far as we're concerned, I don't care who feels we're being too bossy about it. We look back on the last 5 years and say, you know what? We genuinely believe, the two of us, that we have done loads to put a spotlight on cricket in the Caribbean and almost make a generation. That's really bossy. That's really bossy. Hold on, let me not go that bossy. I was about to say that we relighted the whole generation cuts.
What I will say is that I think the biggest impact. All right, let's take this as an example. Well, actually, hold on. Firstly, because man are going to think, hold on, you man really jumped on to gash yourselves up and talk about yourselves. Obviously, this being CCP, yeah, we had a player interview lined up. Obviously, there's been a few miscommunications, and the player's not shown up. So me and Mash, you know what? Let's give ourselves flowers. Obviously, we're too humble out here. Let's just talk about.
Yeah, no, for real.
I'll talk, bro. Obviously, and I think the biggest thing is, Mash. All right, cool. The Island ODIs. We got work commitments. It costs a lot. It costs enough money to go island, where we can't really commit to go island for the whole series. First ODI, second ODI, third ODI. I guarantee you that Island ODI series, if we don't cover it, if we're not putting stuff on social media or doing anything like that, no one's gonna care, man. Like literally, no. It's not gonna be on the radar. If we were there in Ireland for the first ODI, second ODI, you'd see the coverage on a different level out here and the traction it gets. So I think the thing you notice now is a West Indies series. If we don't cover it, you notice the difference in the coverage. I think that's the best compliment you can pay to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, Mash. I think the impact we've had on West Indies cricket, and it's not even like a massive bossy thing. I think it's facts. I think anyone will tell you. Like you said, there's a reason why at Beckenham you're walking around the players' pavilion and Jason Holder comes out and says you're being too negative, Mash. Like, yeah,
Jason Holder cussed me.
Watch the episode, right?
Jason Holder took time to cuss me out at a live cricket match. Well, who am I to Jason Holder? But the man started heckling me.
So that's what I mean, man. Everyone's, and obviously we get messages. We get messages from commentators, coaches, stakeholders about our latest video. So you know what time it is. Caribbean Cricket Podcast. By the fans, for the fans, number one here, undisputed champions. This episode has no real point to it, Mash. We just basically
no point whatsoever. You know, we just made an episode to just be bossy, and I got so bossy. I said that we changed the generation.
Man said in 20 years, some youth's going to hit a century at Sabina Park.
And what put up a sign saying, thanks to CCP, you believed in me from the jump.
Oh God. Anyway, Mash, any final words before we end the boastiness? Let's keep it short. I feel like we could go an hour with the boastiness out here.
This is going to make certain people angry on the show when they get the comments, But yeah, on the serious one, though, people, as Santokie says, you can see it on the ticker tape below. If you want to support the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, head to Patreon. Hit us up if you want to do PayPal or any other means or methods. If you're a sponsor listening to this thinking, I should have sponsored these guys from time ago. We've still got space and opportunities for sponsorship. We're not exclusive to any one people with any kind of sponsorship. So if you're interested in that, just let us know. And then finally, as Santokie says, we are out in Ireland next week, third ODI. The England ODIs will be at the Oval, Edgbaston coming up as well. So look in for all of that, people. I was speaking, last thing I'll say, and then we'll lock it off. I was speaking to Simon, big up Simon, in Ireland yesterday. I need to reach out to Cricket Ireland just to confirm it. But there's a chance, people. There's a chance of maybe a CCP show in Ireland. There's a chance of it, but I just need to work on some things. So even that sums up what Santokie's talking about. Who else would do that? Yeah. Who else would fly to Ireland for no reason when they don't have to? We could sit at home and just watch on TV or on YouTube and still do some content. But anyway, Santokie, as you said, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. This episode was about how we changed the game and the story behind it. Hit us up in the comments below. Super chat, super thanks, all of that. And we will be back very, very soon with some more content later in the week. Santokie, last words?
Yeah, obviously, like you said, some people are going to cuss out. Comment below, if you support us, if you think we're being too bossy, let us know. We're open to all opinions. Obviously, if you think you do another Caribbean Cricket Podcast and you're offended by our comments, we don't care. We're better. We're the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, #1 undisputed champs out here holding the title. No one else does it like us. And like I said, there was no specific reason for this episode, but CCP, bro, we do what we want out here. So, by the fans, for the fans, thank you for everyone who supported, whether it's day one or within the last week. Your support always goes. We're always grateful for your support and to keep the movement going. And we'll continue to try and up the levels with West Indies cricket media coverage. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, wherever you're listening to or watching this in the world. We'll see you very soon for some more bossiness. Take care, everyone.
Peace.
West Indies Cricket, Caribbean Cricket Podcast. West Indies Cricket.